Today we're going to build out this awesome portfolio, and I promise it'll be quick. Design for the most part still happens outside of Ceros, and it doesn't really matter what you choose to design in. Ultimately, you'll be exporting these images as assets, which you'll bring to life in Ceros later on. So let's take a look at our design. I've got a Photoshop file with a few different devices mocked up. I'm planning for this to be interactive. When the user clicks on a device, I want an image to open in a pop-up. It's worth noting that our Photoshop file was designed at a Retina resolution because Ceros uses a Retina canvas. Simply put, my design is 1600 pixels wide, but my actual Photoshop file is 3200 pixels wide to support the Retina canvas. I've got a few different layers in here. The devices, a few different shadows, and the nice gradient background. I'm going to go ahead and export these. We'll want the devices and shadows as PNGs in order to preserve the transparency around the images. And the background can be exported as a JPEG. I'll set the quality to about 70% and hit save. Now that we've got our assets out of Photoshop, I'll head over to Ceros and start importing them. You can drag and drop your assets directly onto the canvas. Ceros supports many different types of files, from JPEGs, PNGs, and animated GIFs, to video files and embedded content. Next, I'll adjust my canvas size to match the Photoshop file. Now that these have uploaded into the studio, I can organize them on the canvas to match my Photoshop file and start laying them out again. Cool, that looks good. You can use the preview at any time to make adjustments to your layout and see those changes reflected in real time in this view. You can also use the preview to experiment with different animation effects without refreshing the page. Pretty neat, right? Now that we've got our layout created, it's time to start adding some basic animation. First, I'm going to select the image of the tablet, as I want this one to animate in first. Next, I'll click on the Animation tab and choose one of the presets. There's lots of different options here, from entry effects and exit effects to attention-seeking effects. I'm going to select Slide Down from Top and set a duration of about 2 seconds. I'll head on over to the preview to check it out. Awesome! Next, I'll apply the same animations to the other devices, but here I'm going to use the delay function as I want them to cascade in. I'm also going to add a bob animation to each of the devices at slightly different speeds and hit the repeat checkbox to give it some nice continuous movement. Finally, we have our shadows on separate layers. The more you break apart your design, the more control you'll have over the animation. Here we're just going to fade in the shadows as the devices drop down, and we can use the live preview to get it just right. Okay, now that our basic layout and animation is done, it's time to apply some simple interactions. When the user clicks on a device, I want to show the image in a pop-up. First, I'm going to add the image to my canvas, and I'll use our built-in icon library to add a close button to the top right corner. I'm going to add a square shape behind the pop-up as well and lower the opacity to about 60%. From here, I'm going to group these objects together and call this Image 1. This interaction type works by showing and hiding layers. And because the end user sees whatever's on the canvas, I need to remember to turn this layer group off. Next, we'll use the icon library again to add a little plus symbol to our first device, and we'll give it a spin clockwise fade-in animation. This is going to be the call to action that opens the pop-up. If you group this object together, you can use it again later on by simply copying and pasting it. Now, click on the hotspot icon in the toolbar to build your first interaction. Click and drag your hotspot over the plus icon to create it. From here, you'll need to head to the Inspector panel and click the lightning bolt. Interactions are defined by a trigger type and an action. First, set your trigger to on-click. Next, set your action to show, and select your Image 1 group in the menu. Hit Add, and you're done. Next, we need to create another interaction for the Close button inside the group. Turn the layer back on, draw another hotspot, and then set up an interaction to hide your Image 1 group. Easy. Let's check it out in the preview. Awesome, it looks great. I'm going to add a simple animation to our Image 1 group to make the pop-up feel a little more sleek. Yeah, that looks better. To complete the rest of this build, just follow the same steps and you're good to go. Finally, I want to add some text at the top, so I'll use the text tool built into Ceros. You can either upload your own font or use one from our Google font library. And that's it. Happy building!